The purpose of this video is to help you understand search terms and how to search effectively in order to be successful in your capstone research. One of the things that I want to do is help you understand the process from a very simple perspective. This is not because I underestimate your ability to understand. It's not because I'm an idiot. It's because sometimes it's helpful to have a big perspective of a process before we get into the intricacies of it that are more complex. So we want to look at this in a very simple way, and then we will get into it in more detail. So we're going to do some organization to help us keep everything straight throughout our research process. And today especially, we're going to zero in on developing a rich search vocabulary for your topic. So this is a simple process, but it's not necessarily easy. And the fact that it's difficult doesn't mean it's impossible. It's simply something that we're going to have to work hard on. You're going to have to work on it throughout the year and stay consistent. So as an example of how it's simple to look at a process and then you can get more complex, if you think about surgery, surgery is the process of cutting someone open, repairing a problem, closing them up, and then caring for them while they heal. That's surgery in a nutshell. Think about brain surgery. That is far more complex, and there are more steps involved in it. So that's kind of how we're going at this research. We're going to start with a very simple approach, and then we'll get more complex with it as you do your research. So it's a simple process, but you have to dig deeper into the process as you go along. Where are we going with this? You are going to have to fill out an annotated bibliography of 10 sources. 2 of those sources can be websites. The other 8 need to be some sort of article or paper about your topic that a scientist has put together based on their research so that you understand your topic at a more complex level. So this will be a summative assignment for you in your capstone class. Generally, people fall into one of 2 categories about how they feel about research. They either hate it or they enjoy it. And throughout the process of the things I'm going to teach you, I hope that you can move towards the enjoy it end because you feel more comfortable with doing it. Search terms help you find information. That's their purpose. We are moving into finding more complex information, so we need to be more sophisticated in how we use search terms. When you were younger in elementary school, you probably just typed questions into Google to get answers. And that worked at that level of information. But when we're trying to find more formal information, we want to be sure that we're searching in more complex ways. Search terms are like tools. You need more than one. So it's not enough to just use your topic. For example, if I'm researching bluebirds, it's not enough for me just to use a hammer like the word bluebirds. I'm going to need a whole toolbox of terms related to bluebirds in order to fully understand them. I'm going to need to know about where they live, what they eat, what the threats are to them, how they migrate, how they raise their young. I'm going to need to know that sort of thing and search all of those sorts of things to get a full understanding of my topic. Search terms are only as good as your ability to use them. So even if you have a pile of search terms, if you don't know how to develop them or use them effectively, they don't do you much good. We're going to create a document where you start building your search vocabulary. And these are going to be lots and lots of search terms that you use to understand your topic. And the more you research them, the more you're going to build this search vocabulary throughout the year. As you learn new things in one source, you will add those search terms to your list. And then the next search you do, you will include those search terms so that you can continue to find more and more rich information. Effective search terms have some specific qualities to them. So they are a long list of words that you add to and change as you research. You are constantly learning, you are constantly developing your search vocabulary throughout this whole school year. They are not just the name of your topic. They are just the important words. So if I'm researching bluebirds, I could research bluebirds and habitat. I would not write it as a question, what is the habitat of bluebirds, and put that in Google. I would not do that. I would narrow it to just the important words. They are exact words and phrases. So they're going to be things like bluebirds habitat, not bluebirds where they live. Okay, you want exact words and phrases. This is not going to be common language that you might use in conversation with friends. You need to be more scientific and formal for this project in order to find the level of information that you need. And I have two more examples that are more specific formal language, diet and nutrition instead of food and what they eat. You want to use the kind of words that scientists who are researching it are going to be using in their research to understand it. Now, when it comes to coming up with search terms, there are only so many things that you might be able to brainstorm. And after a couple of words, you might be tapped out. So how do we develop a rich search vocabulary? What are some ways that we can do that? You're going to start by learning a little more about your topic. And as you learn a little bit more about your topic, you're going to be able to do that. So let's get started with that. So one of the places that you probably went to in middle school or elementary school when you were trying to learn about things, and probably today as well when you're just learning about informal things, is Wikipedia. And librarians and teachers may have given you a lot of information about Wikipedia and its value in education. So my question to you is Wikipedia a useful tool or an evil plague? You probably have one opinion on that, and you might be surprised to find that it's a useful tool for developing a search vocabulary. So I'm going to talk to you about how you can use that. But before we get started with using it to develop our search vocabulary, there are a few things about Wikipedia that you need to understand. This is the disclaimer that Wikipedia makes. And this is the reason why teachers and librarians don't like to see you using Wikipedia as a source for content information that you are using in a report or a school project. Wikipedia makes no guarantee of validity. So they're telling you right away, Wikipedia cannot tell you information that's accurate all the time. There's a little disclaimer that goes a little further. Wikipedia is an online open content collaborative encyclopedia. That is a voluntary association of individuals and groups working to develop a common resource of human knowledge. The structure of the project allows anyone with an internet connection to alter its content. Please be advised that nothing found here has necessarily been reviewed by people with the expertise required to provide you with complete, accurate, or reliable information. So Wikipedia tells you right up front, we can't guarantee that this information is correct. Anyone with an internet connection can change it. So a 12-year-old with a pet hamster can change the hamster entry. You have no idea whether the person changing that entry is a 12-year-old or whether it's an expert in the field. And that is the difference between Wikipedia and reliable sources that you should be using for content. I just want to show you how many people are involved as authors of an article. So this is a Wikipedia article. And if I go to view the history of it, and I look at the page statistics, and then I click on authorship, this is going to show me there are 76 people, so there are 86 people total who have added to this entry on the article about my topic. So AA77ZZ, I have no idea who this person is. Jim F. Bleak, Randy Krinn, these could be researchers in the field. Seas, California, probably not an expert. Doc Watson, 42, probably not an expert. Wickhead, probably not an expert. Do you want to trust the information to folks like Narky Blurt? Or do you want to know that the information that you're using is legitimate? That's the reason why we don't use Wikipedia for the content. These are the article features that we're going to use. We're going to look at the table of contents, the big categories of information that it's covering. We're going to look at the scientific classification. We'll get the classification and the name for the animal in the various areas of classification. Those are the scientific names that are going to be referenced by scientists in the field, so you need to know them. We're going to look through the text of the article and see if we come across additional information that we can research in other reliable, authoritative resources for our content. See also is a section at the end of the article that will refer you to other articles where you can gather additional search terms. References are the papers and the articles and the books that people have said that they based the information that they shared in the Wikipedia entry on. So those sources can be a mixture of things, and you can look at them and evaluate whether some of them are reliable sources with good authority that you can trust. Experts in the field would have been the authors of them. You can determine that by looking at the references. External sites, those could take you to general interest sites about your topic, which probably won't be that helpful to you, or they might take you to a source that could be helpful to you. And we'll look at an example of that in just a moment. So my topic for research is bluebirds. We're going to start with the table of contents. So the table of contents is right here. So we have taxonomy and species. So taxonomy is not a word that I would have come up with in my brainstorming. So I'm going to add that to my search terms list. Behavior would be a search term that I could add. Okay, and that's as far as I can get with those things in terms of search terms. So I could use taxonomy and species actually. So I could search bluebird taxonomy, bluebird species, bluebird behavior. Those would be search terms I could get from the table of contents. Over on the right, when we look at scientific classification, this is going to start very broad. So they're in the animal kingdom. We know that. That's not going to be super helpful to us. But when we get down more specific to the class, Aves, which has to do with birds, the order, the family, the genus, and the species, that's going to give us more information. So we're actually going to write order, class, Aves, family, Turdae, because these are the scientific terms that researchers are going to use when they write articles about them. Genus, species. Okay, so we want to get these specific things written down. Those become search terms that get added to your search list. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to read through the text of the article. So I can see here's the genus, right? So I'm going to add genus and this name to my search term. If I missed it over here, I'm going to make sure I have it from here. Now I see something about the eastern bluebird. So I'm going to add eastern bluebird to my list of search terms. Okay, and I can keep skimming through this. Okay, 3 species. So if I look through here and I'm thinking about the research I'm going to do, I have an eastern bluebird, a western bluebird, and a mountain bluebird. I don't live in the West, I live on the East Coast, and I don't live in the mountains. So I'm going to choose eastern bluebird. I'm going to go to that article. And now I'm going to pick up again with the table of contents. Okay, so here I have taxonomy, description, distribution, and habitat. I can add that search term. Distribution and habitat, eastern bluebird would be my search phrase. Behavior and ecology, I could add those as search terms. Breeding, food and feeding, I could add those to my search terms. And now I can look over here and see the scientific classification. It might be a little more specific for the eastern bluebird than it was just for the bluebird. Taxonomy, I can read through this and find more information. So I can read through each of these sections and I can find other search terms as I browse through them from the text of the article. At the bottom of the article, there are see also options that may or may not help me. So the bluebird of happiness, that's sort of a touchy-feely term that refers to something good that happens in your life. You're visited by the bluebird of happiness. So that's not going to be helpful, but sometimes the terms will be helpful. Then references. If I look through these references, okay, I have a guide to birds. I have a list of threatened species from BirdLife International. I have something about the official state bird. I have checklist of birds in the world, the natural history of Carolina, Florida, and Bahama Islands, natural history of uncommon birds. Okay, I can keep looking, and then here's one, Eastern Bluebird, all about birds, Cornell Lab of Ornithology. Now, Cornell is a research university. So I'm going to go here as a resource and see if this is something that would help me. So this is from the Cornell University Lab, and this is going to help me learn more about bluebirds. So this perhaps might be one of the sites that might be useful to me. Okay, and there's lots more that I can learn about them from that website. Under references, I missed the external links. Here are the external links. So there's a Bluebird Society for North America, life histories of familiar North American birds, eastern bluebird, so it might tell me more about the life cycle. National Geographic news article about bluebird recovery. Okay, so these are expert, reliable sources that I can look at. So you want to look at both the references and the external links to see what you can find. Just as a reminder, we looked at the table of contents, the scientific classification on the right. We skimmed the text of the article. We looked at the see also at the bottom. We looked at the references at the bottom, and we looked at the external sites at the bottom. So those are all resources that you can use.